Let us explore a self-love expert's thoughts on toxic positivity. An individual wrote, quite concerned, that that their negative self-talk was an indictment on their self-love. But it's not. So I'm going to jump around and find some really juicy um, visual aids. Wrong button. Okay, here we go. I'm working on a new laptop, and so there's a learning curve, guys. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. But what does that mean? It means that since the Neolithic Revolution, society in large has been training us. Instead of being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, instead they've been teaching us to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And yes, that does influence the way we meditate. If we meditate in a manner trying to put the kibosh on certain self-talk, that is indulging, or is the button I'm looking for? That's rigid. That is indulging our rigidity and our controlling and our fear and our superstition. There is this belief, this magical thinking that if we say whatever we say comes true, but it doesn't. And I'll tell you why. The Army. The Army and the Navy and the Marines and the Air Force. Military has a division of people, trained killers, that are snipers, assassins. They lay in wait, sometimes 100 meters away, sometimes 300 meters away, and put a bullet in someone's brain who may be very positive. Someone's just walking down the street going, "Oh, I'm God's chosen and everything's fortunate and everyone loves me," and then their head explodes. This has been used from time immemorial. One form of a sneak attack or another, whether it's someone hiding behind a tree or an archer hiding behind a bush, you get the basic idea. The Buddha taught there were things out of our control. There are circumstances out of control. There are things in our body out of control. Developing cancer, if we have a gene to have cancer and we are in an environment where that triggers that gene, that's not our fault. That's not an indictment at all. So let us dispense with the notion of magical thinking. Thoughts are just things and they spring into existence and then they disappear. So if we try to control our thoughts and think only happy thoughts, we're going to be, one way we can do that, that's a form of concentration. And we have to rely on very specific, very discrete neural pathways, such as the medial prefrontal cortex. When we exhaust our when we exhaust our prefrontal cortex, we trigger our amygdala, which is the seat of both anxiety and aggression. So how ironic is it that that indulging our controlling tendencies, trying to root out any negative thoughts, just opens the floodgates for more negative thoughts. It's a Sisyphean task, isn't it, folks? But here's the wild thing. Allow me to introduce you to what you probably already know. Mindfulness meditation, known in Pali as sati and samadhi. So here's how this works. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access the sympathetic nervous system and we automatically access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice in a very specific way. Now check this out. Instead of actively concentrating and picking and choosing what to think, it helps us to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly. So can you see that this is the opposite of being rigid? This is the opposite of being controlling, and this is what we're wired to do. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we interrupt the pattern of our cerebral cortex competing against our sympathetic nervous system. And instead, we create space for these two kids to cooperate and have a grand old time. But what is it that we have evolved to notice? We have evolved to notice mind's antics of perception. Yes, sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. But that's not all. We also evolved to notice mind's antics of emotions. All the emotions, from the glorious to the grotesque, as well as intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. And a subset of these would just be self-talk. What are we to do with these bad boys? This brings us to meditation. Each time we each time we exhale, we are wired to automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, divided between approximately the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to physically relax and mentally release whatever it is that we noticed during our previous inhalation, including really unkind self-talk. When we do this, when we relax into our exhalation, our negative self-talk could feel less traumatizing, less defining, and less permanent. Now check this out. Enlightenment is nothing more than mastering the Buddha's Eightfold Path. What do we mean by mastery? No human infant is born knowing how to use a commode, knowing how to brush their teeth, knowing how to tie their shoes, or knowing how to ride a bicycle. And yet, due to the wonders of good parenting and neuroplasticity, by the time most children enter first grade, they are so good at those four things that they practice them spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. And that is exactly a wonderful example of mastery. Similarly, just playing with this exercise helps us to feel that which we notice, including our negative self-talk, is less permanent. And that is the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the right view of literal impermanence that supports our release. An exploration of right view that is due entirely to our practice of mindfulness and meditation. And so, negative self-talk Noticing negative self-talk is not an indictment against our self-love. It's just a mechanism running amok. Noticing it vulnerably, relaxing into it courageously, is the ultimate act of self-love. This concludes our opening lesson. And now I think it would be fun to shift gears. Aha. It is Yoda Monday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. We turn now to this evening's main practice text, or sadhana if you're nasty. Please chant with me. Whatever comes may, all beings let it come. Whatever stays may, all beings let it stay. Whatever goes may, all beings let it go. Welcome to the first of 5 mindful crease counting meditations. This is an excellent opportunity to explore the 3 pillars of Bengali crease counting. First pillar. What we do with our right hand. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We come now to the second pillar. When we multiply this by 4 sets, we gather 48 inhalations. We can count those 4 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, instead, let's do 8, which will give us 96 inhalations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. This brings us to the third pillar. When we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap. We gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the bladder region of our lower abdomen. Quick review. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are similarly wired to physically relax and mentally release whatever it is that, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation. Together, let us practice right now. Meditation is simple. We're just sitting and breathing and noticing and relaxing in harmony with our central nervous system. That's all.
Self-talk is no substitute for meditation. Self-talk is just a subtle form of indulging our controlling tendencies. Using our brain to argue with our brain does nothing but exhaust our brain, which will exacerbate our anxiety and aggression. And so I would not recommend it. Welcome to the second of 5 mindful crease counting meditations. When we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger, I just got to make sure I'm doing this right, upon the tip of our left ring finger,
palms up in our lap. We gently invite the real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. Excuse me. I do not mean to be the mayor of Nikas, and yet that is exactly what it sounds like right now. So, together as a team, let us continue to practice mindfulness and meditation with a subtle different energy frequency this time. Welcome to the third of 5 mindful crease counting meditations. Excuse me. By resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Whoopsie, I did that backwards. Sorry about that. Still very disoriented with this new computer. By resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. We could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce in the heart region of our chest. So if this is your first time hanging out with me, let me get you up to speed. Here's the essence of mindfulness, or sati, or rigpa. So each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Let's take a gander at meditation, or samadhi, or treksho. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are similarly wired to physically relax and mentally release whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation. Whether that which we noticed was external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. Together, let us practice right now, but first allow me to remind you that the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist or Taoist philosophy, mindfulness, or meditation, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. And do not hesitate to do so. Good evening, and welcome to the excuse me. My goodness. Welcome to the fourth of 5 mindful crease counting meditations. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, but when we rest all 4 knuckles of our right hand upon the corresponding fingertips of our left hand, palms up in our lap, we gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce in the region of our throat that feels as if it tightens just before we cry, like when watching a touching scene in a movie. If this is your first time hanging out with me, allow me to get you up to speed. Let us begin with the essence of mindfulness, or sati. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Let's turn our attention to meditation, or samadhi. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation. We are similarly wired to physically relax and mentally release that which we noticed during our inhalation, regardless. And so that's superficially what's going on. Let's take it a little bit deeper. During our inhalation, we could notice many things. We could notice dualities, the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable and the painful, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. The fundamental duality of Buddhism is that some things we desire and some things we dread. That's neither good nor bad, it simply is. The question is not, do we dread some things and desire other things? The question is that dread and desire, are they just factors in our life, or do they completely dominate and control us? For instance, I desire my next breath. You probably do too. You know, I dread the idea of a jet engine falling on my apartment. But these things, while factors, do not control us. On a deeper level, we could occasionally notice subtle resistance to the real or potential absence of what we desire, or the resistance to the real or potential presence of what we dread. So our job is simple. It's totally simple. Whatever we during each exhalation, we physically relax and mentally release whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation. Now, some people get very uncomfortable with this, and they are scared that they're being asked to be a doormat. Now, there are some very foolish or villainous people who will tell you to be a doormat. I'm not one of them. This is kind of wild, but check this out. The more time we spend in mindfulness and meditation, perhaps once every 12 hours or so, the more we will notice that our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from the effortless efforts of love's centered spontaneity. Now, centered spontaneity should not be confused with the scattered spontaneity we might experience if we have one too many frappuccinos. So this effortless effort is the 6th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Together, let us practice right now, and the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist or Taoist philosophy or mindfulness or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. Welcome. Excuse me. Welcome to the 5th of 5 mindful crease counting meditations. When we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger, upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. We gently invite the real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the crown area or region of our head. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to literally, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are similarly wired to physically relax and mentally release that which we noticed during our previous inhalation. Together, let us practice mindfulness and meditation right now. This is this evening's final mindfulness and meditation, so let us make the most of it. Please chant with me. Whatever comes, may all beings let it come. Whatever stays, may all beings let it stay. Whatever goes, may all beings let it go. My friends, you have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. In approximately, yes, getting used to a new computer. In approximately 12 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.